actually, there is in the notes, although I still wasn't able to get the Telegram to let me unpaywall it. But did you hear the latest Goose news?
Oh, yes, I see that. Goose is painting.
Yeah, so it was that. Goose made a visit to a library. They made Goose buttons or stickers that we missed out on. But no,
fuck.
I know.
I'm archiving that right now for you.
Okay, I tried for like days.
Really?
Yeah, it was really annoying, and I've been noticing that more with Telegram stuff.
Were you using Archive PH?
I was using the like remove paywalls thing that usually by default takes you to archive.ph. Yeah.
Okay, I'm running it through manually, and it is taking a while. So we'll see.
Yeah, the Telegram may be wising to that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same exact website for every single Gannett property. So
yeah,
like Gannett ostensibly is probably able to pay, top dollar for like a web design guy who knows how to do this shit. But
yeah, although it just doesn't seem like they're steeds. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. It is really funny that there is just like an open secret paywall eliminator that like fucking everyone knows about. Like the whole industry is built on paywalling, and paywalling just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's just annoying enough to make me read half as many things as I probably normally would. Like usually I'll just read the like 2 short paragraph summary and be like, okay, that's enough of that. So yeah, that's all it actually really does.
Yeah, it's this is kind of germane to the main thing that I wanted to talk about today. So just start it here, I guess. Yeah, the news website of 2025 is one of the most hostile experiences of reading like that exists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Gannett template is a great example. Because it's so bad. It takes up so much like memory space on your browser, and every story you click on is like there's like 4 or 5 autoplay videos. There's like 17 pop-up ads, and it's like exactly what you were saying. You just end up engaging with a lot less local journalism than you would if it was easy to read, Yeah,
it's kind of amazing. I something I never thought I would say is that Aidan Kearney has really been the vanguard in a certain way of the way that news is presented. And by that specifically, I mean that, just an incredibly hostile website that makes my computer go up like 20 degrees. And I'm pretty sure that like a Bitcoin miner is taking it over. And there's just ads everywhere, and then it freezes, and then I can't see the content anyway. A couple things that have really blown my mind lately are Ray Mariano's opinion columns. He has one about the school safety audit that I tried to click on tonight, and it is, of course, paywalled, even though they probably don't pay Ray. And what he writes is not worth paying any amount of money for.
Right.
I wasn't able to read that.
That's all right. I'll run it through the secret tool that no one knows about to get. Oh, good. This page was last archived 10 hours ago. Yeah. See, I would have solidarity with the Telegram in not actively, because anytime I even link a story in the Telegram, I'll link the archive. I would have like some sort of journalism solidarity, but it's not like the money that they're making off of the paywall is not going to the Telegram and Gazette. It's going to the company that's stripping the Telegram and Gazette for parts right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel the same way. I pay for lots of stuff. I pay for media that I find worth paying for, including, like obviously I pay for Worcester Sucks, but like I pay for a lot of Substacks. I pay for the Atavist. I pay for the Jewish Current. I pay for all kinds of sites that give me something that feels worth paying for. But the Telegram just isn't doing that. And also the money isn't even going to the Telegram. It's not like, if you just kick in your, however much a month, they'll hire another beat reporter or two. Like they're not going to do that.
Right. Yeah. It's not like the money is not being directly circulated around the community. It's an extractive model.
Yes.
It's no amount of money that you pay Gannett Media is going to make it the local journalism that they are ostensibly committed to doing better in Worcester, Massachusetts. It's just going right back into stock buybacks, or they're buying up the next paper, or
Yeah. Or
hiring an anti-paywall archive circumventer expert who knows how to shut that down.
Yeah, and forgive me if this is too reductive for our audience. It may well be, but it's something that I think is like an important point that I make a lot to people outside of the realm of media, really in any kind of consumption that you pay for, is extractive businesses versus non-extractive businesses. And the very easy way to think about that is shopping local, shopping small. And it's like, oh, that's, it's a good thing to do. You're helping out this, local person or whatever. But it's also it's the difference between going to Newton Square Pizza and Pizza Hut, or whatever. Actually, that's a franchise, so that might be a bad example. But extractive corporate entities are entities that take money, the money that gets spent in them does not recirculate in your community. When you go pay, Ralph's, and then the people who work at Ralph's get paid, and et cetera, the vendors that the local distributors and stuff get paid, that money gets spent. It is recirculated within our community. When you go spend that money at Dollar General, it's gone. Someone got paid minimum wage to work there, and then the rest of it is just hoovered out of the community and goes to wherever it goes. It's why Bentonville, Arkansas is a very weirdly wealthy place, but all the places where Walmarts are not.
Right. And I've been having these thoughts about local media, and being a little bit more honest about what are the aspects that facilitated the long demise of local journalism. And I mean, the only logical conclusion that you can come to is that it's the platforms, it's consolidation, it's the extractive nature of an advertising economy, a digital advertising economy, where Facebook and Google suck up 80% of the it's either profit or net spending in advertising. And if you want to compete, you have to play by their game, because it's like monopolies. And local journalism just will never be able to compete with that. So it's you have to learn how to build your own local internet. We talked about this before with
Joanna,
social media.
Yeah.
With Joanna, but I really have been coming back to this thought over and over again that the way to save local journalism, or to make local journalism valuable, is to figure out how it needs to be the thing that localizes the internet, because journalism, when journalists were making buy a house money, was when newspapers were the only game in town for what we now give to Instagram and to Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and stuff. Like, it was the conduit for people to advertise locally and promote local things, and like the classifieds were so important, and all of that money was local circulation. So local papers, like the paper of record, really was the conduit for the local circulation of a local economy, and that just isn't the case anymore. And it's very much the fault of the platforms. So, I mean, we talked about this idea loosely, but I think that, like, there's ways to localize the internet, like a local archive would be very valuable. I think I call it the ephemera archive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like a repository for like stuff that happens on the internet, but like it's Worcester stuff. And part of that's like because it's super frustrating to try to find a like silly video or a screenshot in like the vast sea of nothingness. But I also think it would just like we need to be just thinking about how to not engage with the platforms in the local media.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point for a couple of reasons. One is I've been trying to think. AI has had me thinking this way lately about is it worse if this thing succeeds or fails miserably? Because I think in a lot of these examples, it could go either way. I mean, I think social media and a lot of this media, the contemporary media infrastructure that's been built, it's not been shown to be a success. Like Gannett makes money because they're cannibalizing all of their properties. Like at some point, they're going to run out of properties to cannibalize, and can they be a profitable company when that happens? I'm really not sure they can, actually.
I'm not sure that they're even like concerned with that either.
No, I think they'd be happy to bleed everything dry and then just fold up shop. They don't care about journalism. They don't care about running local media. They're just extracting what's left of the money that's left in it. But I mean, I think the same thing about I don't know, I have major concerns if Facebook and Instagram at all continue to dominate the landscape as they do. And then I similarly have concerns if they were to spectacularly fail, because that's also, they'll just go away. I don't even know that they're archivable in the same way that, like the Internet Archives and stuff have done before, or how that would even work. But that's, there has been good stuff, or at least important stuff to remember. There's things that have transpired in Worcester that happened on social media that were memified on social media, or, silly debates that happened. There's so many I can think of, and it's like, oh, if the lights just blinked out, that's gone forever.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a lot to just be ceding to, like these unaccountable platforms, right? I do, as much as I'm a critic of local journalists, the state of local journalism, and I think that we could all be doing a much better job. Like, it really is the first draft of history, and the social media chatter is part of that first draft of history. And if it's not getting documented and it just disappears one day, then it's like, I don't know. It's kind of we're looking at a situation where we're gonna knock ourselves back into like a new dark age.
Well, I mean,
for stock buybacks or whatever,
Yeah, and I mean, take aside whether the moving to that model was good or bad or otherwise. I think it was bad, but it doesn't really matter because that's what we have. And that's where everyone invests that time that they have interacting socially not face to face. And absent, if that goes away, it's not like we have some other things that we could fall back on for that information. Like, it's actually just gone. Like, that's the only place we put it, really.
Right. Yeah. And that's like what freaks me out. And that's what has been freaking me out. And, like, where I really see there is an antidote to the sort of, corporatized and platformed digital spaces that like it should be like incumbent upon local journalism to provide. But in order to do that, you need to know like a lot, you need to know about all these things that you take for granted when you're just posting stuff on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. I have been looking into how to host a media server and realizing how far away I am from being literate in these things that I rely on, like literally for my livelihood right now, right? So it's and that is like kind of a bummer thing to think about, but I have recently found out that just trying to remove yourself from platforms and trying to learn how things work by yourself is like super, super worth it. And I learned that by trying to build a $30 kit of a synthesizer, and trying and failing to build this stupid little thing for like about a month. Like I would like tinker with it for 5 minutes a day and be like, what is wrong with this thing? And it turns out I just like didn't read the schematic right. But I actually have it plugged in here. I got it working by going off script, and I like basically hotwired it, and I circumnavigated 2 parts that were broken, and the feeling of that, of like succeeding over technology, right? And not being submissive to it is like a really, really interesting feeling that I think that we're overall disincentivized from having. But the triumph when I heard this noise, which is, it's not even a good noise, but let's see if this comes through. Right?
Oh, yeah.
It's just... like... It has a volume knob and 3 oscillators. Like that's all it does, is you can make like one silly noise and then hang it there. But like I didn't ask an AI to do that, right? I learned a tremendous amount about electricity in the process and how sound moves through electricity, and it was like rewarding in and of itself to just like build up a sort of competency. It's a really funny and revealing thing, and it I don't know, it made me think about this this essay that I read over the summer by what's his face, Knausgård. He's like a Danish,
yes,
Swedish.
You were speaking to a mild Knausgård head here.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that about you. That's sick. Yeah. So Karl Ove Knausgård, he wrote an essay for Harpers that came out in the June issue called "The Re-Enchanted World," and it's a very, very long essay, and it is about him just trying to figure out like how the digital age has changed the way that he thinks. Right. So it's kind of like a myopic, like navel gazing sort of essay, and it's very long. But it's very good because I think that we really do need to start at that place of just being like, okay, what would my life be like without all this shit? Yeah. And the part that I kept returning to and that I want to like read a little piece of here, like when I when I got that synthesizer to work, this is like I literally thought about this passage of this essay, but he goes over to the house of this guy named James Brittle, who is a British author and an artist, and he wrote a book that I should order a copy of. It's called Ways of Being, and it's very relevant to the current moment here because it's about artificial intelligence and different forms of non-human intelligence, and how the internet, as it's been created, is a product of like corporate intelligence that has its own obvious logics, but that artificial intelligence could look more like natural intelligences that are non-human, like the ones that he cites: octopuses, fungi, like the underground fungal networks, or forests. And he writes about this idea that I really need to look into called organic computers. Organic computers made out of crabs, bees, pigeons, termites, water. Computers made of crabs. Knausgård using an exclamation point on that sentence is just great. But he talks about this idea called Beer's idea, which is sort of like a truism that where is it? I gotta find this part. So Beer's idea, according to Bridle, was that if these two systems, the pawn and the factory, could be brought into some kind of relationship, then changes in one would trigger changes to the other. But that doesn't really explain. Hold on. I'll cut this part out. Where is the part that I wanted to read? I had it highlighted on my phone. Now I'm on my computer. So I'm blowing it.
See, you wouldn't have this problem on the crab computer.
No, the crab computer would just take me right where I gotta go.
Would have had that quote grabbed up in its little crab claw.
Okay, here we go. I scrolled down too far. A man named Stafford Beer, I read, who was a management consultant at United Steel, had in the 50s and 60s been looking for a solution to the problem of unpredictability. How could we create machines able to adapt to new situations and not just work with pre-programmed scenarios? He conducted thought experiments involving mice and rats, bees and ants, as well as real physical experiments with computers and living creatures. He built a tank, filled it with water from nearby ponds, and experimented with light signals that the creatures responded to. Beer's idea was that if the two systems, the pond and the factory, could be brought into some kind of relationship, then changes in one would trigger changes in the other. This was incredibly compelling. It drew technology into nature, made it as tangible as the phenomena there, and even if it was still mysterious, it was so in the same way that animals and plants were mysterious. So this prompts Knausgård to send an email to him, and then he goes out and he flies out and he meets this James Bridle guy who wrote Ways of Being, and he. This essay is so long, dude. It's crazy.
I'm dying to read it. I didn't know it existed.
It's in the notes. But there's so much like scene, like he's just repeating like the entire conversation. Okay, yeah. So this is James Bridle talking here. He said, after I wrote my first book, New Dark Age, I became quite depressed, more than I realized at the time, probably. One way I got out of that depression was by making things. We bought a little van that I converted into a camper. I wanted to put solar panels on the roof, so I needed to figure out how to do that. And that was very specifically the start of a process that pulled me out of climate depression. This is the part that I thought about as soon as I got the synthesizer working. I started making a lot of what I call solar toys. Incredibly simple, renewable energy devices. You build a box. You paint it black on the inside. You put a sheet of glass over it. You've got a solar oven. You can cook food in that if you point it at the sun. You put some light metal tubing inside of that. You drill a hole in the top and in the bottom of it. You put that in the sun. Even in the middle of winter, cold air would go to the bottom. Hot air would come out the top. You've made a heater. You can build wind turbines. I've built a few. I made one that charges my phone. Ha ha. But that's not exactly the point. You can use them for more interesting things than that. I found that building these things moved me from a position of paralysis around the future to somewhere else, which is not to say that any of these things are going to save us. Knausgård says, I understand that. Bridle says, but I built a sort of capacity to respond that I didn't have before. Before, my thing was that technology is big and scary and worrying. And one of the major problems with the Western world at the moment is that we live within the society of very large, complex systems that nobody really understands, and everyone basically tries not to think about. That in itself is going to fuck you up. For years, I have been teaching people. I can do like a half-day seminar on programming or give little tours of the physical structure of the internet. The seminar manifests it, concretizes it, and kind of puts handles on this big system so that it is no longer existentially terrifying. The weight you see lift off of people when you do that is extraordinary. Transforms from being this completely unknowable force that just acts on their lives into being a thing in their lives that they can see the edges of and conceptualize a little better. I call it technological literacy. And that's I think that's enough of that. That's the main idea here, is that like just that ground that we have ceded to these big complex sort of systems that we just try not to think about, I think is a really huge problem, and it manifests locally in many ways. So I think it's a good use of our time to like start talking about that out loud. You know, like is that not just as important as like say housing policy or whatever? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think like I don't know. I have a ton of thoughts, and I'm going to try not to blast them out all at once because that's not very good for the podcast format. For people to have to talk 7 points past each other. But let me start here. I think it's such a good point. And I mean, I think it manifests itself in all ways technology pretty much, but also in a lot of other ways, and including the fact that like technology is creeping into everything. Like I was just thinking, well, I'm going to tell a story about like a little micro example of this that I have that regards heating and cooking. And it's like, oh yeah, that's not technology, but like at this point it is. Like your thermostat might be, run off of your, fucking Ring camera or whatever, as might your stove. But yeah, I think a lot about, and I don't have the brightest thoughts about this because I think I'm kind of afraid to know the answer. But
going right back to what this bridal guy was saying.
Yeah. I think a lot about how when I was younger, I'd say particularly in my teens and my early 20s, I was really, really broke. And I did not have access to, pretty basic things at the time that were less ubiquitous than now, but like a computer that was even remotely like current or things like that. Regular access to the internet, cable, or like I learned to do a lot of things because I wanted access to those things And I would put hours and hours of my time into learning how to do them because I was going to say I didn't have anything better to do, but actually what I was doing was way better, I think, in retrospect, than like, I don't know, binge watching The Floor is Lava or, The Masked Singer. I don't watch those, but I don't watch stuff that's much better most of the time. And yeah, I think about this a lot. Like when I come up against a challenge like that these days, a lot of times I just get really frustrated and I'm just like, well, fuck it. I don't know if I've like just my brain has gotten less malleable, or I've killed too many brain cells by various chemicals or what, but, or if I would still be capable of getting my brain back there again with some exercise. I guess that's the point that I'm getting at. It's like, I've been hearing people have this conversation a lot around AI with like, does using AI all the time make you stupider? And the answer seems so far to be a resounding yes.
Yeah.
But I think we probably should have started to have that conversation way before what we're in modern parlance we're calling AI.
Yeah.
I think that erosion has actually been happening for quite some time, if I'm being honest with myself.
Right. I think that the way we talk about AI is a little bit reductive, and we need to reconnect it to Googling stuff, because AI is just basically an extension of Googling shit. Like, you don't know the answer, just Google it. Now it's just like a slightly different iteration of that with some gimmicks thrown on top.
Yeah, and I think a thing about AI too is AI encourages you. Googling stuff used to be like, okay, Google it. Check the first 5-10 things. Whatever. Like, maybe try to build like a consensus of sources for what it is that you're trying to do. And I think one of the core promises of AI that I don't think it delivers, but certainly that it promises is no, you put it in here and it does all that work for you.
Right.
And then you get back the ultimate answer. And we know it's like really far from doing that actually. But even if it could do that, like your brain is losing a thing that's actually good for it to do, like any other kind of mental exercise and I think it can't be replaced by like, I don't know, doing a crossword puzzle or something. So the heating example that I was going to give is when I bought my first house, back when I had a house, we put a wood stove in it pretty much immediately. And I was just like, this was purely just a reaction of me seeing what the oil heat had cost in the house and being like, I'm going to be broke.
Yeah.
And being like, what could I do about that? But, I put a lot of research into, like, could we put one in this house in the city? What would we want to put in? What's, sort of the most cost-effective way to do it? And then, like, I learned, I've been thinking about this a lot lately because my brother-in-law just got a house and he put a wood stove in, and I've been getting to impart a little bit of my knowledge. But, like, I learned so much, like I spent so much time figuring out, like, how do you do this? What's the best way to do this? What's the best way to do this? Like, and I made this thing that, like, if I could make fire, I could heat my house, I could boil water, I could cook food. And, like getting to learn that stuff was like a real skill that, but that you just, you have to put the time in, though. Actually, like there isn't really a cheat code to it.
So you made like can you explain the thing? I don't really have a visualization of what you're talking about.
Oh, the thing was just a wood stove. The wood stove could do all of those things, but it was only because I was like, okay, I'm going to buy one with a plain flat top, so that's big enough that I could put a pot on it,
right,
and I could boil water on it, and like that I have the right stuff to do that, and that like I have it set up in such a way, and this is how I can like most efficiently burn the fire, and this is the best way to like burn it if you're trying to burn it a short time or a long time, and this is how you split your wood up, and this is the kind of wood you want to get if you have to keep it in your basement. You don't want bugs, and like it was just a lot of learning to optimize like a thing like that. Like it could apply to anything, but
right. That's what got me interested in learning circuit boards. Is like I I love making music, and I do so much music all the time, and I have no fucking idea how synthesis or sampling or any of this stuff like actually works. And it's like it's like a little bit liberating to just commit your time to like getting a basic literacy over it. Knausgård starts that essay, or he doesn't start it. His first sort of scene in it is like he like reconnected to the natural world via gardening, right? So he's kind of interrogating technology from the perspective of gardening the entire time, which is super interesting. And then what the part that I read is like at the end, where you kind of see the parallels between, you know, building your own solar arrays and gardening, and just sort of like rediscovering the world around you, basically. It's just like a crazy thing to say out loud, but like something that we actually have to do. Like,
no, I mean,
go ahead.
I think, you know, we say this fairly often, like a good point to start on any empowering direction towards what you want to accomplish is to like be honest about the conditions on the ground. And like, those are the conditions on the ground. Like, I think it was super interesting getting to talk to Jen last week about the bean and bringing the bean back, this bean that used to grow here. That's like an incredibly useful, hardy crop that basically disappeared because of industrial foodways. And, you know, thinking about gardening is a great example. Like, I don't have a garden right now. I have before, but I have plants, and I have little finicky, weird plants that I like to get. And part of that is like, I just like them. But it gives me something to do and to like focus on and like, you know, try to be successful at and to get smarter about and learn how like, oh, this one has to get fertilized this way and this one doesn't. This one needs more humidity than this one. Like, those are, I'm not going to eat those plants, but like knowing how to grow things and knowing what you can eat is a skill. You know, if things go a certain kind of way, you might wind up needing.
Yeah.
And it feels really good to learn. To me, I think it's like there's a value in learning something that feels frivolous to you, but like all this stuff is actually pretty useful. You know, you could say in the post-apocalyptic world, it would be frivolous to have a synthesizer. I would disagree with that notion, but one could say that. But learning about how electricity and circuit boards work, like that's pretty universally important information.
Yeah, I guess it wouldn't be the first time that we've both outed ourselves as having prepper tendencies, but I do think about stuff in that context often. And I don't think it's a useless thought exercise if you just take a fucking look around. But I don't know, because this thought just came to me because I watched it 2 nights ago. Have you seen One Battle After Another?
Yes, I just saw it.
Oh, so I thought it was cool. I didn't like love it, but I thought there was some very interesting parts to it. And one of the most interesting parts is in this vision of like just like a slightly amplified America, how important the shortwave radio was as a technology, like running in the background, like for the movement. Like the 2 kids who put out the Mayday call. It's like that scene was so cool, right?
Yes, I'm going to be careful because it is a pretty recent movie about what I say.
I didn't give anything away with that.
No, absolutely not.
No spoiler alert, I suppose, but we're going to be careful not to spoil anything.
But yeah, no, I mean, that's the kind of stuff like well, so first of all, with the movie, I liked the movie. I don't think I loved it. I thought it made a lot of sub points very well. I'm not sure that I've still grasped the main point. Of the movie, I guess is what I would say. But I think it was very worth watching. I was captivated. I wasn't bored.
Yeah, it was fun.
but yeah, no, I mean, I think I think about that stuff. We have, I think, officially outed ourselves as at least like petite preppers. But I would say like I'm not a prepper. I think when a lot of people think preppers, they think hoarders, and I'm not a hoarder of stuff. But I like to know how to do things that could be useful. And I like to have things that could be useful. And I guess what I would say about that, the way it makes me feel, I think there's a notion that like a lot of that is stuff that you do out of fear. And I would say it's something that I've done in response to fear. But it doesn't make me feel afraid. It actually it helps me feel less afraid, because I feel like I will have some niche skills that will hopefully be useful if things get really bad. And I hope to be able to use them to help other people. And I don't want to tie us up here, but I think at some point, at least before we finish, it's worth talking about like organic intelligence versus like, essentially corporatized intelligence, or like corporatized artificial intelligence. And I guess as a starting point, the thing I would say is that when I think about finding out new things about organic intelligence, it usually doesn't fill me with terror. Usually the things we find out are like, trees and fungus communicate with each other across vast networks to help each other and send each other resources when they need it. And like, octopi like help each other and like share food when they need to, or like alert each other to this or that, or like cross species things like that. It seems like the natural world is actually pretty socialist anarchist. So it doesn't scare me that much. Nearly as much as the other type of intelligence does.
Right. And it doesn't even really have to be as much about like a concrete vision of the future as like just dealing with that ambient dread. That's what I liked so much about that part that I read earlier. Was that this guy wrote a book about sort of like the coming age of scarcity. And doing that made him incredibly bummed out. And whom among us right now doesn't like live with that ambient depression, that ambient like sort of unease about what's coming down the pike? But he got himself out of that depression by just doing silly little tasks, right? Like building little solar panels. And I think that there's really something to be said about that. When I think about my career as a writer, I think about how I could spend a lot of time, learning how to game the YouTube algorithm, or learning how to, get myself to like 50K followers on blah, 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 right? How to do better TikToks, how to do Reels. And it's like, when I start thinking about that stuff, I start looking at tall bridges longingly.
Yeah.
It's like, it's very bleak and it's very nihilistic. And it is not interesting at all to me. It's only like interesting in the most cynical way, right? It's not actually. It's a very like cruel process, like increasing your profile on social media. It's like Patrick Bateman would love posting. Like Patrick Bateman would have a really popular YouTube. You know what I mean?
It is invariably sociopathic.
Right. But looking into there's another thing that I did recently. I spent like half a day looking into like the engine that runs Wikipedia. It's called MediaWiki, and it is open source. And you can just start your own Wikipedia-structured website, basically, which is how we get things like Wikipedia, for instance. Like there are wikis out there for popular IPs and video games and
all
stuff.
kinds of stuff, like pretty niche video games. Yeah,
right. And like this goes back to our conversation with Joanne. We'll have to link that in the notes. But I really do think that a worthwhile endeavor for an alternative local outlet trying to figure out how to recreate like the community defining sort of aura and presence of the stranger or the village voice in the village voice's time. Like that, it's not going to come by posting better on social media. It really won't. But like building a extremely useful and fun like Wikipedia for just Worcester would be like that's a resource that people would really benefit from. And it would help. Like I have no idea how to do it, right? But I want to learn, and it makes me feel more like sort of connected to the essential job of journalism to learn how to do that stuff. And like Wikipedia is still just a massive group project. It's like such an outlier in the whatever we're in, corporatized 3.0, Web 3.0. And like AIs wouldn't have anything to learn if Wikipedia didn't exist. And it's still literally just a volunteer effort. And I just think that that's really cool. And I do think that a lot of our listeners would gravitate to being, Worcesterpedia editors.
Yeah, I think cool. I think it'd be really cool, and I think it's the other thing is it's I don't know, you could take everything you just said in the last couple of minutes and say, oh, well, that's Bill thinking about how to be a good guy, how to be an ethical guy, not trying to monetize himself to the maximum level. But the other part of it that I think about a lot, and I guess would encourage other people to think about, is it's maybe not just an altruistic move. Like there is apparently still fake real money to be made in the exchanging of fake influence and stuff right now, but I am not sure that model. I think we can look around at us and maybe at least consider the fact that that is not a model that's going to stand up in the long term in the form that it's in. And maybe it's actually a smarter investment to do the other thing and to build something that's durable and that people are actually invested in. And that can be like mutually beneficial to all of us. That might actually be the approach that's going to, get us through our 60s and 70s if we can otherwise get there. Maybe that's how we'll put it.
Right, exactly. It is. I'll let you say that I'm altruistic, but it is incredibly self-interested. I want to be a local journalist. I like what I do. And I think that the logical conclusion that I've come to, and I think is really the only one that makes sense, is that the platforms are set against local journalism. Like, they have killed it, and they will continue to kill it. You need to be, like, actively antagonistic to the platforms, but still, you have to use the tools available to, like, get your work in front of people, right? So there's that natural tension there, but you gotta you won't get anywhere by playing by the logic of the thing, because the logic of the thing is what has destroyed journalism over the past 30 or 40 years.
Also, the logic of the thing changes all the time. Yeah. And we're not in control of when or how it changes. I remember a thing that probably most people don't know about me is before I got into doing organizing work and stuff like that, I worked at a .com as like a very low level marketer. And one of my jobs was to keep a mid 2000s website relevant in SEO search. And you would learn all of this stuff about how to do that, and Google didn't want you to do that at the time, so they would just change everything. And everything you had just learned was essentially useless. And they can just do that at any time on any of these platforms to all of us, and they do it all the time. I talked about the enshittification thing at one point. In that they talk about the giant plush teddy bear or whatever that someone wins at the carnival, and how TikTok was the example they used, but they're giving some person a giant plush teddy bear all the time, and the purpose of that is to show it to everyone else who's making content for them for free, and be like, hey, you could win this teddy bear. You could be that person, but you can't. And if you ever, by the lottery, the mega millions of TikTok, get that chance, as soon as they decide Greek wrestling influencers are just a little oversaturated, we need ones that make colloidal silver at home, they'll just switch it on you and you're done. You have no control over it. It's like you bet on the wrong horse. Sorry, brother.
And that has across the spectrum, that has people chasing relevancy, being downwind from platforms that can unilaterally sort of dictate culture, right? That's fucked up. And this is the idea I was trying to find earlier, and it was just way further down in the essay, but this Stafford Beer guy had a very interesting phrase that I think I've returned to a lot since reading this. It's called POSSIWID, which is a horrible acronym, but the purpose of the system is what it does, right? It's not any more complicated than that. I mean, look at the local, to pull it back to Worcester politics, the purpose of the system is what it did this election cycle, right? It's reinforced a small minority of wealthy, homeowning, nice neighborhoods in the city, just reinforced their claim to power, because that's the purpose of the system, because that's what it has historically done, right? It's not like there's some bad people right now who are taking advantage of an otherwise good system. No, it's a bad system. And I think that's the sort of centralization of information technology under the banner of a few Silicon Valley companies is a system that, at the same time, local journalism completely collapsed. There's a fifth of the journalists working in America, as there was in 2000. And people blame the internet like it's an inanimate object, but it's no, it's not. It's the system. It's not. It's the system that people make the system and benefit from it. It's the internet is people. They have names and addresses, and they are all moving from Silicon Valley to El Segundo, or whatever that fascist Silicon Valley is called. These people are doing it on purpose, and there's no point in playing by their game because you won't win.
Did I ask you, or just mean to ask you, on the Joanna episode, when was the year of the first time you were on the internet, and where did you go?
Oh, don't think you did. I don't think you did ask me that.
All right. Well, if it's a repeat, apologies. But there's a method to my madness here. But I'm curious about
first year I was on the internet.
First time you ever used the internet, and what was at least one of the first websites you ever went to? It was dial-up. I must have been in 4th or 5th grade.
and it was AOL. I think was my first interaction with the internet was through AOL. Like everyone in my class was like, we talk all night on instant messenger, and I was like, I don't know about this. Fuck, I gotta get on instant messenger if I'm gonna have any friends. And that is how that was how I was introduced to the internet. And that and RuneScape. RuneScape changed my life, but we don't have to talk about that now.
It changed a lot of people's lives.
Josh Leifert punched through a computer screen. You know what? That's not my story to tell. You ever see Josh Leifert out and about? You ask him about that, and watch how his face turns. Man.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I did not know that. I will absolutely be asking Josh Leifert about that.
You got to ask him. Yeah.
So I'm sorry. The point that I was getting to, and I'll let you get back to whatever I took you off of, is that so my first experiences on the internet were probably, I was thinking about how you're my sister's age. So you're just the right amount younger than me, that we had pretty similar but slightly different experiences going on the internet for the first time. And I remember the very, very first time I ever got to use the internet was in the library of my middle school. And I was really interested in graffiti at the time. Mm-hmm. And I was really interested in the Zapatista movement because I loved Rage Against the Machine.
Dude, so sick.
And I went out and searched on, I don't even know what, it was way pre-Google. I went out and searched, and I found websites about those two things that were just like, I think of them now as like these old man websites where they're just huge repositories of information, and all of the interfaces back then were terrible. But like, I was able to just find like thousands of images of like train graffiti and stuff. And I was able to find out all this stuff. And there was like no paywall. There was no advertising. Mm-hmm. There's lots of examples of this kind of stuff. But like, I guess, it wasn't inevitable that the internet had to be this way. And like, we might not be able to make the entire internet come back from being this way unless it falls apart in the form that it is. But like, it is pretty rudimentary to have an internet of that we could control, or a walled garden internet of like local stuff that we could control. I think it gets tricky because, now we're not dealing with just like plain text and, small JPEGs and stuff. Right. There could be a lot of data to host, but it's definitely like doable.
It's not doable overnight, but it's like the same thing as, making that one little heater or making that one little synthesizer. Every time it's just the exercise of thinking about it.
Yeah.
And inching yourself closer to it is worthwhile. So like, I don't know I'd be really curious to hear from listeners, from local people who have probably, there's a brain trust that we could be tapping in here to get something like this going. There's a lot of people. Every time I post like I need technology help in the newsletter, I get like 5 or 6 people who are like, I would be happy to help you. I know a lot about that stuff. So anybody listening to this, just send an email to the email you got this post from, or whatever. Maybe I'll get a listserv or something going. But I think that building a local internet is a very interesting idea, and it's legitimately local journalism, because tie it back to the election again, fucking your Mo Bergman voters and your Gemma Kamara voters are living in entirely different universes of perception, of it is so siloed off by platform, the political spectrum, right? The what happens on Facebook and the conversations on Facebook are like diametrically opposite to the conversations happening elsewhere. And there's no people don't have to confront like the whole of the local discourse. They can just like stay in literal, like calculated, incentivized echo chambers to the point where there's a breakdown in shared reality. Which is crazy. Why are we letting fucking Facebook break down our reality? It's not that cool. It's not even cool at all. It's not even good. It's crazy.
No, it fucking sucks at this point.
It just sucks. It sucks. And we're letting it literally like fracture consensus reality on the material level in a small city where it should be easy to have a consensus reality.
Yeah. And the thing is too, like it's fracturing the consensus reality in ways that I think like haven't existed since, speaking of the Middle Ages, like the Middle Ages. Like I understand. And I think a traditional sort of fracturing of reality is like, I'm conservative or I'm liberal. There's many other parts of the spectrum, but let's just use those two. You know, I'm going to go vote for the quote unquote blue candidates in the city council election. I'm going to go vote for the quote unquote red candidates. What that even means anymore is like increasingly unclear, but the people who went out and voted for Mo Bergman and Mo Bergman type candidates or the opposite of that are one thing. There's also, as you talked about in the newsletter, sitting through the recount, there are people who voted for both of those people.
Yeah.
There are people who voted for like Donna Calorio and then Christian King for mayor. There's a person who passed in a blank ballot for voting for nothing except the like fake resolution that Candy had stuck in there. Like,
yeah.
Reality has become so bespoke at this point that you could do that.
Right. Just completely like that was anybody that didn't like read the last newsletter post or whatever, I like the Camara campaign was hard up for volunteers when I was there, so I got to actually go in and be like an official observer of the recount.
That sounds very unethical as a journalist, Bill.
Yeah, whatever.
Fucking with you, sorry.
I did feel all eyes on me, and fucking Steve Quist, that little snake in the grass, tried reporting me right off the bat for being on my phone, but I wasn't even on my phone. I was just writing in my notebook. But he had like election workers go over and tell me, if you're going to be on your phone, you can't be on this side of the line. And I was like, I'm not on my phone. And then I watched them walk right back to Steve Quist and tell him that. And I was like, dude, that's pathetic. But anyway, I did the very unethical move of helping out a candidate that I believe to be much better than the other one. Which is, that's so dirty.
Also in a way where you could not influence the outcome actually at all.
No, you literally just watch two people count one ballot at a time on a big paper spreadsheet. And I did an hour of it. It was like 4 hours I was doing it. I did an hour of it right next to Steve Sargent, which was hilarious. He was fine. He was walking around the place like a freaking politician like before Mo Bergman's guy told him where to stand. He was just like, he went like right past the line and was just talking, shaking hands. You're not supposed to talk at all. It was funny. Like, he's just there to hang out.
I'm sure Steve Quist reported him too, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Right away. Yeah. Post haste. No, of course he didn't. But seeing the ballots filled out, it just shows you like how there was so anachronistic. Like we like to we people that are like really invested and like have a cohesive worldview and see the world through that. like cohesive set of politics. Like it's just a lot of people just aren't like that at all, right? And you can really see that when you look at individual ballots. It's crazy. Yeah. I don't know.
It's really fascinating.
I don't know if I've fully processed, like, so I need to figure out, I suppose, I'm not 100% sure of this, but I think that is like the only time in recent memory we've ever been able to see individual ballots. And there's just a lot to be learned from looking at individual ballots. Like, that's very useful information. I feel like there should be other ways to get access to that. But I don't think there is. So, like, the recount didn't go the way that we wanted, obviously, but it was still worthwhile, I think.
Yeah, I don't think there is another way to do that, at least in Massachusetts. And so that would mean that the last time that there was a similar opportunity would have been the last recount, which was 2007 for the mayoral race between Connie Lukes and Rick Rushton.
There was a recount on that.
Yes. Yeah, there was a slightly wider margin, which is interesting because Rick didn't take quite the criticism for challenging that Jamo did. Wonder why. But
that's very interesting yeah, I don't know what's different between the two.
Also Mo Bergman just got to throw himself in the end and be like, oh yeah, by the way, me too. And just like, no one had any criticism of Mo for that.
Yeah, I think you know what I'm going to say about that. It makes me tired to think about the fact that was like legitimately like a top line fucking town controversy for like 4 days, 4 news cycles. Was like, how dare Gemma do this recount? It's such a waste of money. And like all of these people are like just willing to give the cops millions of dollars for drones or whatever. You know, it's like it's
willing to give the cops millions of dollars, or like over time, willing to give the cops whatever amount of money it takes to sit at every polling place at election. That's no problem.
Right.
But
yeah.
God forbid you want the count to be right.
Yeah. And I mean,
which, by the way, it wasn't. The result was the same, but the count wasn't right, and it was not right in a completely predictable way that I tried to sort of caution people about as like this was beginning to happen. That like, she wouldn't need a lot more votes, but it's like everyone's going to get. Generally speaking, the traditional wisdom is that everyone's going to get more votes in a recount, a hand recount of optical scan ballots, which is why you do the hand recount, because the optical scan's probably just going to scan things the same way. But there's speaking of technology versus, organic intelligence, there is an intent that a human is able to discern from a bubble filled on a ballot that a machine might miss. Anyway.
Right. It's everyone just got a little bit more votes. The count, the gap went from 23 to 32. So it's like from like fuck so close to fuck so close. It was a nothing difference.
Yeah,
it's still within the margin of error, which is just like the really just deflating part of that. Is like, you get yourself a little bit, you get a little tingle of anticipation that there could be like something less miserable about this cycle, and it's like, nope, actually it was exactly the same shit.
Yeah, but it was so close though, and I know people just like got the shit beaten out of their souls, but like just remember that it was 33 fucking votes that we would have had Mo off the council. Not that many more. Caden would have been on the council. We're not far away, but we're fighting a fierce headwind.
Yeah. Yep. And part of that headwind is Facebook.
And not having a functional local media that, everybody knows about.
Right. Yeah. That's why local journalism is really important. to movements. It's been very interesting over the past 5 years to write a pointedly movement-oriented local journalism, sort of hone the style of that, because I think that is so important. And Mamdani in New York owes a lot to the local journalists like Hellgate, NYC, in the city, and other small outlets that are doing sort of alt-weekly tradition style reporting in New York. That made a difference, I think.
Absolutely, but also to your point about the structure and the system doing what it was designed to do, there are a lot of differences in the way municipal elections and mayoral campaigns are conducted in New York City as opposed to, say, Worcester.
Yeah,
and there would have been barriers to an alderman coming in and making this kind of run that, as many barriers as there were in New York City, it would have been tougher to do here.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually very true. It's obvious that it's that way on purpose,
Mm-hmm.
Like, you literally have to pick up votes one at a time in Worcester, and there's no party infrastructure, and it just favors people who have been around a long fucking time.
Not to belabor the point, but we had a lawsuit pretty recently that was trying to diversify the school committee racially and ethnically, that has made it less racially and ethnically diverse. And that was a choice that the city made in response to the lawsuit. Yeah. There was a lot of ways they could have fixed the problem, and they picked one that specifically made the problem worse.
They picked the one that was like most likely to make the problem worse.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know enough I'm not a lawyer. I cannot really operate on the level where it would be interesting to talk to somebody who is familiar with that case and, like, why was the city allowed to make that decision, right? Because they're obviously going to do that. You can't let the city make a decision like that. You're going to get Diana B. and Carrier for the rest of your life if you let, like, Joe Petty's City Hall make that sort of decision. And we could have had ranked choice voting for all at large, right? That would have, as far as I know, and I might be like a little wrong on the specifics, but like somebody who is smart and knows about this stuff sat me down with a big binder one time and explained it. Like, they could have just done ranked choice voting, and it would have satisfied the lawsuit.
Yeah, the lawsuit called for a remedy without really specifying what the remedy was besides what it was supposed to be intended to do. And I could talk about this for way longer than we should talk about this right now, but I guess the quickest way that I could say it is, my take is that the plaintiffs in this lawsuit and their legal counsel did something that you should never do in Worcester, which was assume that once they had thrown up their hands and said, like, yes, we're probably going to lose this lawsuit, like, because the data on the ground looks so bad. They took them in good faith, that they were willing to look in good faith for a solution. And of course they weren't. You can't give them the choice. Like,
right.
You're smarter than them, and you don't have the explicit intent of keeping everything the same way as it is. So you have to hit them with the stick and then tell them, how to not get hit with the stick again.
Yeah. You can't play nice under the dome. And people that aren't under the dome don't know that, but like, we are under the dome, and that has been proven by the past 2 elections. And you can't play nice under the dome.
We're under a dome, and the dome is Thunderdome.
That's right. Larry's Thunderdome. Oh, fuck. Oh, man. Chris, I don't know. This is a good place to leave it. We've
probably
just been chatting.
I got a couple. Yeah, I had a couple loosey-goosey things in the can. We'll save those for another week. I think this is just a good just chatting kind of situation.
Yeah, and yeah, I should probably introduce the show. This has actually been the longest cold open of all time. An hour and 10-minute cold open. This is Outdoor Cats, what you've been listening to. And if you've made it this far, you probably know that. And we are recording this on frickin'
Saturday. I'm sorry, Friday. No, it's Thanksgiving long weekend. Days aren't real now.
Days aren't real.
Friday, November 28th.
It's the 28th of November. It's Friday. We just had Thanksgiving. Chris, I'm thankful for you.
Bill, I'm thankful for you.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice.
And I'm thankful for all the people who sit through this for some reason every week.
I'm thankful for I'm thankful for the listeners of the show. Hey, funny Thanksgiving story. My cousin shows up with a new girlfriend. Turns out she lives in Worcester, and she's listened to a couple episodes of this program. So I'm not going to put either of them on blast by naming any names, but that was pretty cool. I was like, no shit. Small fucking world.
Yeah, I had. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was done.
I had a rather extended person in my spending the Thanksgiving National Day of Mourning holiday with people very unexpectedly tell me that they had listened to the Bean episode and that they just really loved it. I don't think they've ever listened to any other episode, but
that's
they were like,
such a good first and last one. You just listen to the one Bean episode and then you're out. That's awesome. It was a good episode though. I was like a proud podcaster father, and like, Chris did his own episode.
Yeah, I did my own episode. I'm growing up. I'm going to be a real boy one day.
You're going to be a real podcasting boy one day, as is your right. Yeah. Shit. All right. Well, let's get out of here. Let's enjoy the liminal time space zone of Thanksgiving weekend by not thinking about Worcester at all until Monday. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, dude. I'll talk to you later.